Hello, Christ is in our midst. I'm Father Kevin Long of St. Elias Antiochian Orthodox Church in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Today is Friday, October 1st, 2021, and here are the readings for today. The first reading is from the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 9, verses 10 through 19. In those days there was a disciple at Damascus named Ananias, and the Lord said to him in a vision, Ananias. And he said to him, Here I am, Lord. And the Lord said to him, Rise and go to the street called Straight, and inquire in the house of Judas for a man of Tarsus named Saul. For behold, he is praying, and he has seen a man named Ananias come in and lay hands on him so that he might regain his sight. But Ananias answered, Lord, I have heard many things about this man, how much evil he has done to thy saints in Jerusalem. And here he has authority from the chief priests to bind all who call upon thy name. The Lord said to him, Go, for he is a chosen instrument of mine to carry my name before the Gentiles and kings and the sons of Israel. For I will show him how much he must suffer for the sake of my name. So Ananias departed and entered the house, and laying his hands on him, he said, Brother Saul, the Lord Jesus, who appeared to you on the road by which you came, has sent me that you may regain your sight and be filled with the Holy Spirit. And immediately something like scales fell from his eyes, and he regained his sight. Then he rose and was baptized and took food and was strengthened. And today's gospel reading is the Gospel of St. Luke, chapter 6, verses 17 through 23. At that time Jesus stood on a level place with a great crowd of his disciples and a great multitude of people from all Judea and Jerusalem and the seacoast of Tyre and Sidon, who came to hear him and to be healed of their diseases. And those who were troubled with unclean spirits were cured. And all the crowd sought to touch him, for power came forth from him, and he healed them all. And he lifted up his eyes on his disciples, and he said, Blessed are you poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you that hunger now, for you shall be satisfied. Blessed are you that weep now, for you shall laugh. Blessed are you when men hate you, and when they exclude you, and revile you, and cast out your name as evil on account of the Son of Man. Rejoice in that day, and leap for joy, for behold, your reward is great in heaven. Glory to thee, our God, glory to thee. So you may have noticed in terms of the readings of the church that not only did we have this day where we read that particular passage, but a couple of days ago we read exactly the same passage. Bear with me for 1 second. Well, anyway, you can take my word for it. We basically have seen this passage read before. It was on Tuesday because we were commemorating a particular saint on that day. And then today it is in the lectionary to be read in the course of what's going on in the gospel that we're reading. Right now we're reading Luke, and so that's why the gospel is there. I'd like to point out a few things. The first thing is that St. Luke's gospel and St. Matthew's gospel both contain these beatitudes, but there are subtle differences to the both. In Matthew, what you have are the beatitudes of spiritual condition. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness. Blessed are the pure in heart. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are the meek. These are all spiritual conditions. In the conditions that we see in the Gospel of Luke, what we see there is the poor. We see those who are hungry, and we see those who are weeping, and those who are persecuted. All of those are physical conditions. So we have spiritual conditions on the side of St. Matthew. We have physical conditions on the side of St. Luke. So what else do we see in these particular passages? Well, the first thing that we see is that in the Gospel of St. Matthew, the sermon is done on the Mount. And the Mount is only with the disciples, only with those that he called to be with him at that time. The Sermon on the Plain, as we find it in St. Luke, that is done in front of the multitude. And so it kind of makes sense. If you think of it in terms of what kinds of conditions one must find oneself. Remember that in the Orthodox Church, we have a very physical way of expressing our spirituality. That physical way is through fasting. We do fasting almost as much as we don't fast in the calendar year. And so fasting is a very physical way that shows the depth of our spirituality. We choose to fast because it's the right thing to do. It's because what God calls us to do. We've been told that our spiritual life is only bettered through prayer and fasting. And so the spiritual is only aided and sustained, and forgive the phrase, but nourished by the physical presence. And so in St. Luke's gospel, what we see are these physical manifestations, being poor. And now think about this. The multitude that is hearing this, when Jesus says, "Blessed are you poor," if you're poor, do you feel blessed? Probably not, right? And so you're going to hear what he has to say next. Okay? "Blessed are you poor, for yours is the kingdom of God." That gives you some consolation in knowing that you may be suffering right now, but in the kingdom to come, you are not going to be sad. You're not going to be suffering. "Blessed are you that hunger now, for you shall be satisfied." Well, again, those are empty words to those who are physically hungry. And it is very hard to be spiritual when you are starving. Okay, so Jesus says that they shall be satisfied, again, in the coming kingdom of God. "Blessed are you that weep now, for you shall laugh." Okay, so all of those are physical conditions, emotional conditions, I guess, in some cases. And as a result, the consolation that Jesus offers is that those things will be turned into their opposites in the coming kingdom. The kicker, if you will, is in the Gospel of Luke, not in the Gospel of Matthew, not just our beatitudes, but our woes. Okay, the woes are like, well, woe to you that are satisfied now, for you shall be going hungry later. Blessed are you who are rich, for you have had your reward. So in the inference there is the kingdom of heaven is not for you. Okay, which is a really terrible thing to think about. But those people who are considered rich in this world, what do they need heaven for? And the scary part is that heaven is eternal. This area, in this era, is temporary. So the enjoyment of riches in this life are temporary, but the things to come are eternal. That's a sobering thought. So what we see in the Gospel of Luke then are these physical conditions then that show the consolation that God is offering to those who are suffering in this world. And so God is not blind to the suffering. God is not unaware. God does not hide from it, but instead takes it head on and does what is necessary in order to bring peace and consolation to those people who are in need. So may God bless you and those that you love today and always. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. I thank you very much for joining me. Pray you have a great day, and God willing, we'll see you tomorrow.